Hi there. So, I thought I would give an update on my channel. And I actually think I'm going to be doing a little bit of vlogging. And if you've been following along on my channel, then you know that I've taken a break, that I've been focused on other things. And if you're new here, welcome. I'm going to catch you up from where I was before. And basically, I was just finding that I didn't feel like I needed to keep saying stuff on camera, like, because I was talking about a lot of spiritual topics, the wisdoms that I had gained, and things like that. And in retrospect, what I can tell you about this time period where I've been away is that I can see how I was being kind of ushered into a space of more introspection, which I believe I did mention in a couple of videos. I could feel that that was happening. And also, like, there was a wound within me that was stored in my body that needed to be released, and that I had no real, like, context or like anchor for or experience to alert me to, except for a few symptoms that were kind of going under the radar because they were just like, I was just like so used to it. So I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to just talk about the latest thing that I healed. It was really great, by the way. And the reason I'm sharing it is to catch you up, but also, you know, take what resonates for you, apply anything that you can to your own situation, fill in your own blanks, you know. If you have further insights or discussions that you want to have, by all means, engage in the comment section. I'm open to it. Okay, so basically, I started to get really stressed out. Well, first of all, I started out by really enjoying my time away from the camera and just kind of like feeling free, you know. And then pretty quickly, I had a bunch of like chaos going on around me. And what I mean by that is, you know, and my family members who haven't had the benefit of doing 10 plus years of shadow work like I have, their stuff kind of started to bubble up a lot on each other. And it was causing me stress because, you know, I love them. They're in my life. And I was sort of having to play the voice of reason and hold a really balanced place for some of them so that it didn't devolve into like irreparable damage for everybody. And I did not love that it was happening, you know, but there was kind of like this knowing within me that like, this is what I'm here for. And actually, that wasn't okay. So that wasn't where I went initially. When it first started happening and the situation was getting chaotic and everyone was kind of fucking out of their fucking minds, basically, with their acting in their shadows around me, I tried to express to them what my view was of what the situation was happening and how it could be repaired, or what actually the truth was in the matter, right? Because if they were all kind of in their shadows, so they were seeing through the lens of their own wounds. But I was outside of those wounds, so I could see very clearly what was going on. It was all like it was like the easiest math problem ever. It's like you see it and you know the answer, right? It was like that for me. And in trying to share that with them, I wasn't getting anywhere because they were just like, well, I shouldn't say for all of them. Some of them were getting it, right? And then one here and there, like mostly one, was like just refusing to get it. She was just digging on into her shadow, and her pride was getting in the way, and she wouldn't humble herself. And it was just, things were just blowing up around her, and she had nothing but blame for other people. And whenever you are blaming other people, you can't be healing, but she was claiming that she was healing, and it was affecting a lot of other people negatively, very negatively, including myself. It was sad and stressful to see her on the attack mode of other family members and things like this. So that was happening. And then like another family member here and there would dig their heels in and be stubborn on a topic or whatever. But then there was a little bit of movement and healing and understanding with a couple family members here and there that I could kind of help through, and just try to like get everybody to be aware of the other option, meaning you don't have to go to war with this person who's at war within themselves and projecting it onto you. You could actually just take this other option, which is paved with the truth that I've just shared with you. And so I was basically like showing the high road to some of my other family members who were dealing with this. And a lot of times they were taking it. So that was, it was okay. And I was like, okay. But then there was this one family member who would just not, very, very stubborn, very, very prideful. And so I decided to dig into my cards to get some help and some answers, because I was just feeling like, well, what the F, And I was being assured that this was something that I was meant to be a helpful player in. And that was really disturbing to me, because I was like, I can't effectively help this situation because there's downright refusal on the part of this person. And basically, I was meant to be in the situation, but there's refusal on the part of this person. So I was basically meant to play this like bridge maker for the other members that were willing to take the high road, when they could see the truth and they could understand that they were triggered, and then like get out of their trigger and blah, 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 blah. But for this one moment, like, I think I didn't feel it like consciously, but I think inside me, I felt like really defeated with this one family member, because it was just so sad to see her destroying things around her. And so one morning, I woke up to a voice saying, Julie. Like, it was a male voice, and it was trying to wake me up. And it was so like potent and real that I actually woke up and started like looking out my windows to see if somebody was outside that woke me by saying my name, but no one was there. And so I kind of asked, and you shall receive. I said, what was that? And I was basically downloaded and told that I had just died, and they brought me back. They were just, giving me the incentive to come back into my body and wake up. And then it was made clear to me that the reason why I died is because I checked out, because I didn't feel like I was being effective in the situation. I couldn't help this person. I couldn't assist this person out of their darkness, which is an ancestrally passed along pattern that they meant to break out of. And in trying to like step out of the life that I'm in, I get, I was rebriefed, so to speak. And it was kind of like this reminder of why I'm doing this. And upon being reminded of why I was doing this, I came back in. And I was like, okay, I'm here. I'm doing this. I'm in the fucking chaos. Apparently it's meant to be. Here I am. I'll show up. And because at that point I knew I was meant to be there, I could take it a lot more seriously and not let like feelings of like, oh no, is this a reflection of me? Oh no, did I not do enough shadow work in me? It wasn't a reflection of me at all. The fact that I could stay balanced within the situation and see it all clearly was the benefit that I could offer to the situation. Because even if it wasn't being communicated to the other parties, it was an energy that was standing as a pillar of availability to the other participants. And it was like, okay, this family curse has been broken. Here's an example of that. You know how I'm not devolving into your game here. I'm not devolving into the story. I'm not making a war with you, even though you're attacking me. Here I am as an example of how to break free from what you're suffering right now. So I was back in the game, right? But I essentially had stopped breathing in my sleep. All right, so fast forward. I think it was about 2 weeks after that. So it continued to be very stressful mostly because of this one family member who wasn't working together with the rest of the family members to just get through the difficulties. They were just kind of doubling down on their trigger and their ill stance, and like just really causing a lot of chaos and pain to other people. And it was very difficult, very stressful for everyone. Not just me, the other parties for sure. And it was stressful to me because I was like holding a space within a chaos, holding a space of light within a sea of chaos. And yeah, I was strong enough to do it. But at the time, it was like, I usually run away from this shit. I usually like see this stuff happening and go the other direction. So in a way, it was like when you do when you're going to get fit and you do the first workout and then you're kind of sore afterwards. It was like that for me. It was like, okay, I can do this. I'm doing this. But afterwards, it's like, oh, that was hard. That sucked. That was not fun. So it was like I was building up my muscles of standing within my light, in a strong way, in the midst of absolute chaos. Okay. So I think I had definitely taken the high road for a long time, and it was quite natural, but never with this degree of chaos. Literally everything around, like the whole family was being torn up, and people's lives were being affected and changed, and it was major, Okay, so that all happened. And because I was very, very, very stressed out, I think that primed me for the release of this particular wound that I did have to release, which had nothing to do with the energies of what was going on in the other family members, besides for the fact that at the root, one of the symptoms that came from the root of this particular thing that I was about to heal in myself was not being heard. Let me explain further. So if you hear a tractor in the background, it's because my landlord apparently is grading the driveway, and his tractor really stinks. It must be diesel or something, and yeah, that's what we're dealing with. Maybe you can't even hear it. I don't know. But there's also a fan and an air conditioner going on. It's like 90 degrees today. All right, so let me go on with my story. So 2 weeks later, then things are slightly settled down. Like that particular family member that was in the most amount of chaos, I've just ended up taking space and blocking that person so that they would stop projecting their issues onto me. I mean, they might do it in their own mind, but they can't like actually come towards me with it necessarily. And then like the other family members I had assisted them all to get to a place of stability and strength within themselves and resilience within themselves. So I was like, okay, phew, And then my health was starting to feel a little bit off, and I was like thinking, oh gosh, like maybe the stress really got to me. And I was thinking, all right, like I need to de-stress. I need to like start looking into some of these symptoms. I had cut out sugar within this time period, like before all the stress happened, I had cut out sugar. But a couple times I had had extreme cravings and gave into them, thinking my body might need the sugar for fuel. But every time I gave into the craving, I would get these terrible symptoms of like inflammation and phlegm just from eating like basically like a chocolate chip cookie, you know, as far as sugar goes. Like it's like one chocolate chip cookie could do that to me, like the next day being all inflamed and having phlegm to wake up to. And like that was crazy to me. So I knew like, wow, my body is like seriously overreacting right now to some things and not handling things very well. And I've already noticed over the past year of my life, for the first time I've noticed my body aging. Like just my body started reacting differently than it always had, you know, because I got to know my body in my lifetime, how it responds to this and that, and how my skin feels and all that kind of stuff. And all those things have started to change. And I know as women get older, things can change. I'm not in menopause or anything like that, but, you know, I didn't know what was up. I knew something was different. And I think it's just that I had used a lot of my resources with the stressful situations leading up to this period of my life, and then the stress. And using up all those resources and not replenishing actually burns out these stem cells, and the stem cells are what renews our vitality. So it's kind of a serious thing. So anyways, but I didn't know exactly what was wrong, so I started researching some symptoms and getting some ideas and getting ready to start maybe treating myself with supplements and, you know, see what else I could do, right? And then this one morning, I woke up really extra hungry, and I wasn't normally eating early breakfast, but this particular day I was about to, because of the amount of hunger I woke up with. And as I sat down to eat my avocado toast with an egg on top, I went into an anaphylaxis. The airways constricted, and I could not breathe. Like, you know, it was very scary. I didn't understand. I didn't know it was even called anaphylaxis at that time, and I know that if you look at anaphylaxis, and maybe if you talk to any medical professionals, they would say it needed an EpiPen to come out of it or whatever they do, but that's for allergies. I will say that I don't think it was an allergic reaction. It was a trauma response. It was something that I needed to heal, and I'll go into more details about how that worked for me. So there wasn't necessarily an allergen. This was my body was creating the situation I needed to heal in. Now, I told you that one of the symptoms of what the root of this issue was not being heard. So you can imagine that when you can't breathe, you're not being heard. Like you can't even cry, you can't even make sounds. Like I got up and I opened the door and like went outside to try to like, you know, get my body to breathe. I thought fresh air, but it was like the most humid day we've had. And it was just a thickness in the air, and I was not getting air to go in or out, and I was just kind of scared and, you know, panicking. And I had this thought, I'm going to die. And then I had this thought, should I call 911? And then I had this thought, you are a self-healing being. You need to make yourself breathe. And I just forcefully started telling my body, you need to breathe, breathe, breathe. And I'm like making these seal sounds like out on my porch and just trying to get the air to come in and out. And it just took what felt like a long time. I don't know how long the whole thing took. Maybe over a minute, maybe 2 minutes tops. I don't think it went more than that, but it could have. It was just that because I knew I couldn't breathe, like time didn't exist really. So I don't know. you know. Obviously, some people hold their breath for like 3 minutes and are fine. But like, it wasn't like I was holding my breath. It was like, I can't get my air to move in and out of my body. This fucking sucks. I think I'm gonna die. Oh no, I can't die. Oh no, I can't call for help. Oh no, I need to do this myself. It was like that. Which is kind of crazy. I think I probably, if I couldn't have gotten myself to breathe, I probably would have dialed 911 and just like left myself on the stairs so they could find me. But eventually, when I was forcefully getting myself to breathe or telling myself to breathe, I started to be able to get a little bit in and out, and then a little bit more and a little bit more until I was breathing. And I still couldn't take like a deep breath, but I got myself to get air moving. And then I thought, okay, that was fucked up. That was scary. I think I need to go to the hospital because I don't even know why that happened. And I knew my health had been, causing me issues. I was kind of scared. I was like, what is going on here? And, but I had plans to help my son that day, and I was going to babysit for him to go get his driver's license. He was scheduled to take his driving test. He had already taken the written. He needed to take the driving. It was scheduled for like 3 weeks already, and if I went to the hospital, he was going to miss the appointment because he can't have the baby in the car when he takes the test. So I called him and said that I was going to have to like go to the hospital and that I was really sorry, and he was like, yeah, absolutely. But like, he also wasn't like letting me speak. He wasn't letting me explain. He was just kind of cutting me short and like acting like, well, whatever, I got to figure something else out. But I was trying to express to him what had happened, like he was the first person I was speaking to after this traumatic event where I was all alone in my house, pretty much dying from my mind's perspective. And I couldn't get him to listen. And like, I had to like speak up and speak more firm to get him to listen to me and hear me out. And so there was another symptom of not being heard. So anyway, we end up hanging up, and then I realized, in the forcing myself to speak firmly and more strongly, I actually opened up my airways, and now I can breathe. I can breathe normal now. And I was like, maybe I should just do the babysitting and go to the hospital later. I'll figure this out later. I feel okay now. So I call him back. Took some convincing, but I convinced him to let me do the babysitting and go to the hospital later. He did so reluctantly, and then I ended up waiting to go to the hospital 2 more days. And on that morning that I decided to go, it was because I woke up feeling a little bit off and a little bit like hard to breathe, and and I was like, And I looked up anaphylaxis, and then I saw that after you have a first episode, you are sometimes prone to another episode. And I was like, well, that sounds really awful. I'm going to go to the hospital because I do not want that to happen. I at least want to know what happened and what, see if I can rule some things out. So I got, took a shower, got myself ready, even though it was difficult to take the shower and stuff because I was thinking, this is dumb, but I really want to take a shower before I go. Because it was feeling like I should get there. I should get to the hospital. On my way to the hospital, I felt confused. I didn't even like recognize what road to take. And it was weird for that to happen because this is a place that I've been to so many times. It's very commonplace. It would be like getting lost on the way to the corner store in your neighborhood. It was like that. It was like, what? How am I confused on what road to take? And then I get in there and I start to tell them, why I'm there. And they're asking me to fill out my name and the date. And I can't even like make my brain do it. My brain's like confused on what to do. And they give me this paperwork and I'm trying to fill it out and I'm like feeling so confused, and it scared the shit out of me, because my brain, I like that I can depend on my mind, but I couldn't at these moments. I was like getting scared because my mind was failing me. I wasn't scared because I might not breathe. I wasn't scared because my body might be ill. I was scared because my mind was failing me. And so it made me cry a lot, and it started scaring me enough that I started releasing a lot of tears, and my heart was kind of tight, and just like they put me into a room in the ER. Now, I wasn't going to go to the ER. I was going to go to a specialist doctor, but I didn't know which one to go to. And I don't have a primary care physician because years ago I was diagnosed with something that the doctors said would kill me. The doctors ended up giving me conflicting advice, and I had to take it into my own hands to heal myself. And ever since then, I've just been doing it myself. For the last 13 years, I've understood the laws of the universe and how it works, and I've been able to, take care of myself all this time. So it wasn't until all this was kind of happening that I was feeling like, oh, I need some outside assistance here because I'm not sure what's going on. I don't know. It was like I couldn't see anything clearly, right? So, like I said, when you're in a wound, you see everything through the lens of the wound. So here's the clue of what was happening to me. Is the reason why I was confused is because I was seeing through the lens of the wound that was coming up. But I didn't yet know that at this time. So they put me with, an intake nurse, and then another nurse, and then a doctor. And these three are one after the other, but each one's asking me, about what's going on. So I end up telling each one some portion of it, but also feeling very confused and start crying a lot, a lot of tears release, a lot of it. And it felt I felt like crazy. I felt like, oh my God, I'm losing it just for them asking me questions about what happened. I felt really kind of foolish in a way, but I didn't let that run everything. I just, that was one part of me that was just feeling like, this is crazy. I can't even express to them clearly. I can't get the whole story out. I don't think that they're understanding. One person got one part of the story, one person got another part. But by the time the doctor came in, I had already talked to 3 people before him. Saw him for a total of 3 minutes. But in that time, I started to get to the end of my crying and actually said to him, I think I was releasing trauma when I got in here and I was crying so much. And he goes, that's possible. And I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. And then he took my pulse, and he said my pulse was normal. I said, sir, I do a lot of meditating. Because I did. My body felt calm at that point. I wasn't panicking anymore. I wasn't sad. I wasn't crying. It was kind of like the calm after the storm. And so I guess I had high blood pressure, though, because he ordered an EKG. He did all the blood work. I told him that I suspected maybe a thyroid issue or something. He asked if I had never been diagnosed with diabetes. I hadn't. So he did all the blood work. And he not only did he do an EKG, but he also did an x-ray of my heart. Because I did tell him that when he asked, that I had palpitations in the week leading up to this all happening. And I had fluttery heart or whatever. And I thought that was one of the contributing symptoms of thyroid issues, but I didn't know what was going on with me, right? So he runs all that. And then basically while I'm waiting for the blood work and stuff to come, I kind of start shifting and feeling like I'm okay. I'm fine now. I'm I don't think they're going to tell me anything is wrong with me. And sure enough, the test results all came back, and there was nothing off in my blood, no thyroid issues, no diabetes. He actually was concerned at my high blood pressure, and he did not even come in to talk to me again after the initial 3 minutes, and he actually discharged me via the nurse and sent me home with a prescription for high blood pressure, if you could believe that. I asked questions about how this high blood pressure medication works. The nurse said, they could look it up. I said, I'll just look it up myself. So I wasn't able to even ask this doctor about why he was prescribing that. I never even knew anything like that. I did get a survey for my hospital stay, so I do think I'm going to fill that out actually and share that I was discharged without even speaking to the doctor, and then I was prescribed a medication after him seeing me for 3 minutes and diagnosing me with high blood pressure. Literally, even though after my initial releases of tears, the blood pressure cuff was off. So they were taking my blood pressure while I was releasing trauma from my body, you know? But anyways, and he didn't take me seriously enough about releasing trauma from my body to know that that was actually happening, because he literally prescribed me a medication when all I was doing was releasing trauma from my body. It was stored in my body because, and now initially I was thinking that it was because of what had happened a couple days prior, that I had stopped breathing. So I left there just like not knowing why that even happened, but knowing that my health overall was okay, that I could go to a primary care physician, maybe get a checkup and go from there, see if this blood pressure thing was, an issue or tied to anything else or whatever. So I didn't fill the prescription or anything because, I haven't taken prescription medications in, I don't know, 10, 13 years, something like that. So I wasn't really going to jump on that bandwagon, especially when I didn't even know what that medication was about. But I came home and still just not knowing and a little bit nervous, like, oh, what was it? We ruled some things out. That was helpful. I got my test results, my blood work, and looked them all up myself and made sure that I agreed with what, they said, which was that my blood work looked great. And basically, ask and you shall receive. So after being home for, I think it was like that day, or it might have been that night, it was answered to me on what was actually happening. And what it was is that I wasn't just releasing the trauma of that not breathing situation a couple days prior, but when I was born into this earth, in this incarnation, I was what is called, or could have been called back then, a blue baby. For the first 3 days of my life, I stopped breathing and turned blue. And I had known this, and I had understood through being downloaded that it was because my vibration couldn't stand coming into the density that I was coming in. Like the body and the ancestry that I was coming in was so dense that it was hard for my soul to like come in, and I had to keep trying and keep trying. And so during those times when my soul like couldn't stay in the body because it was just too dense, I would be slipping out, and then like my body was like not breathing. And this is the type of not breathing where turning blue, because there's no air going in or out, and there's actual like asphyxiation. And so of course there is the symptom, the root cause of the symptom of not being heard, right? Because I couldn't even cry as an infant that had just been born, who had no air in the passageways. And so this release that I did at age 48, which I am now, was literally to release the trauma that had been stored in my body for 48 years from the time that I was born. And my body had stored this experience of not being heard, of not being able to cry, of not being able to breathe. And it needed to be released from my body. It was trauma stored in my body. The body remembers, right? And so my subconscious created the situation I needed to heal within, which was another experience of not being able to breathe. If I had figured this out before then, like maybe when I died that time, like when I died in my sleep or whatever, or another time about 6 months ago, the asphyxiation kind of experience where I was about to eat my breakfast another time, and that anaphylaxis started, but it didn't last very long. I was able to like recover very quickly that time. If I had picked up on it then, like there were signs all along the way, there were opportunities, but it had to get really big and loud for me to finally understand what was happening. I didn't understand before 6 months ago when it happened very minorly. I didn't understand when I died in my sleep and there was nothing really like conscious about it. It had to be something that I experienced consciously so that I would understand that there was something rooted in me that caused that to happen. So I would be open to the understanding, and that I would interpret the download that explained it to me. That is all that needed to happen. And once I understood, oh, I was releasing trauma from not being able to breathe when I was born, then it was like, oh yeah, now I don't have to worry because now I understand what was happening. Problem solved, you know? It was like that. And so that is the story of how I released trauma that was from infancy, that I had no conscious looping pattern except for what I realized in retrospect, you know? So it's like that sometimes, right? And I could tell that the stressful situation within my family leading up to it played a part in it because I felt so worn out. You know, normally I am really strong and hardy, and my body wouldn't do that to me, you know? I've withstood a lot of stuff in my life. I've had a lot of trauma. I've been choked out. I've been beaten. I've been, lots of bad stuff has happened to me, and I've been fine. I've been resilient. When chaos happens around me, I handle it very well. But it was just like the multitude of directions it was coming from all at once prior to this situation had me in this sort of like weakened state, vulnerable state. And being in that vulnerable state put me in the situation where my body could even respond this way, like this, and step out of its like usual coping way of dealing with this. So it's like I had to be weakened over time in order for this experience to even bubble up out of me. Kind of amazing that to think about a recurrent medical issue could be rooted in a trauma that is just trying to get itself seen. It's something worthy of note, in my opinion. So only take it if it applies to you. And I'm not trying to give any information that would replace the recommendations or treatment of a doctor or a therapist or any professional. By all means, go get yourself checked out if you need to. I'm not saying that the way I handle myself and my health is the way that everybody should. I'm just giving you insights into how my mind works and how it works for me and why, and what I've been able to do in the past, and why I thought, why I've been handling myself the way I had up until this point. The doctor did point out in that 3 minutes that I saw him that he had just gotten his blood work done because he just feels like it's important to have your baseline. So by having a primary care physician, you get to, have blood work done yearly or whatever. So you kind of know your baseline. You kind of know when you're going off your baseline. And that in itself can be very valuable because sometimes the average levels for all the humans is not your average. You know what I mean? So he pointed that out to me, and I did understand what he was saying, and I do see the value in having a primary care physician now. I don't have one yet. I may get one. At this point, after the realizations of that, I was just kind of taking myself back into this no stress kind of situation, making sure all of that trauma had been released, and just kind of letting myself come into a place of like a new normal for me, which is a new normal without carrying that trauma within my body that I had carried my whole life, right? It pushed me to a new place. And so I've just been kind of sitting in that new place, feeling my way through, and just kind of seeing how much more sensitive I am, and how much more calm, and how much more aware, and how much more heard I am. Yeah. The wound of not being heard was alive in me for all these years. And I've started to see that is not actually the case. Yeah, sure, there were some people that I could affect very deeply with words, meaning they heard me. But I think sometimes that was more my frequency. And, sometimes I would have certain people that I just would not hear me. They would gloss over, they would put me in a box, they would project onto me, but they wouldn't hear me. And I think clearing this particular wound has allowed me to be more heard by some people. So, if more people happen to hear this, you are welcome to interact with this video in any way that you feel called to. I'm interested in your experiences if you feel like it's a safe space to share them. And I'm probably gonna continue to do like vloggy kind of stuff on my channel. So if you want to follow along, if you have stuff to share, feel free, join me. I've felt like, oh, taking a break from posting on my channel also corresponds to not being heard, right? It was like, I've talked about before how when we're ready to heal something, it gets louder and louder and it's more active in our field. So as the wound got active in my field, I no longer expressed because it was like that feeling of not being heard was there. So it was like, why express? I'm not going to be heard anyway. You know what I mean? And I actually do really enjoy expressing myself. I like to talk. I like to express myself. I like to share. And to me, it's something that I'm doing for me a lot of times when I'm on this channel. But if it is helpful to other people, I really appreciate that. And I'm going to continue to do it probably, you know, whatever feels right at the time I do it. You know, that's how I'm going to do it from now on. I guess I was always doing it that way. All I'm saying is I feel different, so let's see what it looks like going forward. See you there.